Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have 5 stories for you from the MaliciousCompliance subreddit. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Sisek Dog. All the overtime you want? Okay. First time poster, hope I don't fudge it up. So this happened a couple years ago when I was 19 to 20, somewhere around then. As a wee lad, I got a job working at a local superstore while attending college. I was a cashier. It sucked, but honestly wasn't as bad as it could have been. My immediate manager helped protect the cashiers from the higher-ups, but those are war stories for another day. As time went on, as it does, eventually the dreaded holiday season came around, Thanksgiving week to be exact. I got the week off of school due to the holidays and was scheduled to work a juicy 40 hours that week, but unfortunately was scheduled to work all Thanksgiving and Black Friday. My schedule had Thursdays off, but Thanksgiving falls on a Thursday, and I was being forced to work. The good news is, at least they fed us a ton of food in the break room. That was honestly nice, but I was bummed that I had to miss the holiday with family since I had prepared to have the day off as I thought I would. Now, before we get into the malicious compliance, a quick note. The store did not allow overtime. You were given extra lunches, sent home early, whatever they had to do to avoid paying out. If you got overtime, you were either lucky or you had a major problem you were being made to handle. Management was salaried, and the enlisted workers were lucky to get 38 plus hours. No extra money for the folks in the trenches. As we are a major store that caters to everything from groceries to electronics, we prepare for a very long week that tends to mark the hustle and bustle of the holiday season as a whole. The energy is pretty low as we all really dread this time of year, and I am extra nervous. This is my first retail job in the front lines during the holidays, and I heard of all the horror stories about what is coming. The store manager gathers up a lot of the workers for a quick announcement that Monday. He tells us that essentially we are really behind and have a ton of work to do, and this is going to be a rough and wild week. So he is authorizing any and all overtime across all departments from today until Sunday. He told the managers and department heads that if an employee wanted to work, let them work. We need the coverage. Later on, we would discover what he meant was letting us come in on our days off to work an extra shift or two. Tack on a nice 8 hours to our paychecks. Whoops. If an employee wants to work a shift, let them work. And oh boy, oh lord, oh gosh, oh golly gee willikers, did we want to work. Let me tell you, we went crazy. I pulled 6 doubles that week. Someone parked their RV in the parking lot and worked what had to most likely be forbidden due to labor laws. People were working maximum hours. One day, I worked so long, our manager gave me 3 lunch breaks. Dozens of people jumped at this opportunity. The next day, I came in and saw the overnight guys still petering around. We milked that week for every hour, every cent of possible overtime. I don't recall all the numbers and such directly, but I think I went from a 72-hour paycheck to one that had about 118 and around 42 was overtime, which was 1.5 times paid. It's been a few years, but those numbers feel right. Also, if you work on Thanksgiving, you were given a single-use 25% off coupon to use in the store on one big order. Since I used my overtime on stuff to buy in the store, it felt like I earned an extra 25% on top of that. Management let it happen. No one said anything to store manager that week, and he sat in his office. It was 2 days after that week that some corporate suit showed up and gave him a verbal beating when they realized he blatantly authorized that. I think early on he realized his mistake, but the die was cast, and truth be told, we did need to get the work done. All that overtime, and we barely were ready for the open door on Black Friday. He was mad, shouted at a couple managers after he got yelled at, asking why they let us work so much, but they just shrugged. If an employee wants to work a shift, let them. It was immediately dropped and was clear it would never be allowed again, and policy would remain as it was. I bought a TV, a month plus of groceries, Christmas gifts for everyone, a new car battery, 2 new tires, and some random things here and there for myself. It was worth it. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called dbowwacker. Sure. I mean, give the guy a medal. He got the store ready, and with all the holidays, I can't imagine they lost money. Yeah, this is right. And one other thing to think about here is if anybody else like OP decided to spend that overtime money in the store, well, they were getting it back anyway. So kind of a win-win situation for the employees and the management and the company as a whole. This story comes to us from MD Lapla. New boss gives angry me an impossible task. I don't know if this is exactly malicious compliance, kind of a revenge story. I used to work for a big IT consulting company notorious for not paying overtime. I worked for a client's migration project for almost 1.5 years, leading the functional migration team. The 3 of us worked for the client 3 years before the start of the migration project, so we knew the data we had to migrate, all the nuances, and 2 weeks before the migration date, 99% of the data was already migrated and validated. We only did the day-by-day new data and sag off pretty much those last 2 weeks. Other manager that outranked me became extremely angry about our calmness because the part she led was behind schedule due to bad scheduling, and everyone was being overworked because of her mishaps. Come migration date Saturday starting 9 a.m., everyone was expecting long hours of work, but we clocked out at noon with the data validated with the client and the go-ahead signed, sealed, and delivered. My team got a written commendation from the client. The manager's team spent the entire weekend there. She got a complaint letter from the client. The manager complained about us and made me and my senior analyst spend the next month waiting for incidences, bugs, complaints. We got 5 in the whole month. My senior analyst spent 8 hours a day studying a new language. I took a chance to update my CV, I wanted out, and pretty much help a couple former colleagues that needed to solve bugs and problems within the manager's team responsibilities. A couple weeks later, evaluation time. At the IT company, everyone was graded A to D. A being exceeding expectations, D being you're out of here. B was good, C was pretty much I'm starting to think you might not be good to work here. Given the commendation from the client, I was expecting an A. My evaluation was done by the manager and my mentor, close friend with the manager. They gave me a C because we didn't see any pressure on your work and you certainly lack motivation. I complained and took a long overdue, already planned month-long vacation. This was June. After that, back at work, I was assigned to a project on another client led by manager's husband. He wanted me to prepare 122 integrations with different systems in 4 months. I told him that in the previous project, led by his wife, they took 2 years to have 12 integrations ready, but I would give it a shot. I even emailed him the planning where it clearly showed the time they took. 2 of those months were July and August, months where pretty much everyone on the client goes on holiday. Manager and wife also went on holiday pretty much all August. I spent those 2 months chasing people around the client's office. But starting in September, 6 integrations were closed and 6 more were almost closed pending validation. Manager came back from holidays and was furious. He called me a slacker and started telling me that his wife was right, that I lacked motivation, and that I would need to spend the rest of the project duration working till midnight to make up for lost time. And I said, no, I won't do an hour more than what you're paying. I told you that your expectations were unrealistic, and you went ahead with them anyways. He went ballistic. I replied, I just lack motivation to work in your project. I want out of the project. I was out of the project in no time. I got a call from my mentor. She said that they were evaluating firing me without pay because of this. I told them about the unrealistic planning. She said that I was being unrealistic and that the planning was good. I produced the email I sent the manager. My mentor went quiet. A minute later, she told me, "What do you want? If you can't guarantee I won't do an hour of overtime ever again, I want out, full severance, and then some, and I want the company to make it look like I quit, not that you fired me." She went quiet again. She said she'll see what she could do. I was out of there smiling by the end of the day. OP added an edit at the bottom. It says, "PS, from the team that remained in the project, 4 guys were on my team before the migration project. They all complained. They all got out of the project as well. PS2, as far as I know, the project took twice the expected time to be completed. Manager's husband got nearly fired. Wife held a lot of power and managed to save his butt." Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called UberNuber. It says, "Not the point of your post, but I want to point out that a mentor, among other things, is a person that has your back and advocates for you. Your mentor doesn't sound like much of a mentor." OP responded to this and said she was, until her friend complained against me. And another user called Metalsmith21 said, "I think you are mistaken. In that case, she was never your mentor. You deserved better." I went back and reviewed the numbers a bit in this one, and I'm seeing 2 months of work, they got 6 done, and 6 one step away from being done. So they did almost the same amount of work in 2 months that the other team did in 2 years. Now, I don't know anything about this field of work, but it sounds like OP knocked that one out of the park. So there should be no bad vibes from management here because OP was doing a pretty darn good job. This story is another example of managers just not knowing what they're managing and setting unreasonable expectations for members of their teams because they haven't done the actual work themselves before. This story comes to us from Once Was a Worker. She must go on leave and I won't hear any excuses. So this happened a few years ago. I was a union delegate at a large firm. We had a manager called Karen, I've written about her before on this subreddit, who was appointed to her role by a director of the company. Let's call the director her uncle. Karen wasn't very clever. She hadn't finished high school and previously worked as a receptionist. She once told me 40 was half of 100. Karen is struggling in her job and basically does nothing. Her desk is a mess of paperwork. She also looks after all the small departments like records, security, stores, etc. If anyone takes on Karen, the director steps in and Karen gets a get out of jail card. There were a few occasions when Karen got yelled at by a manager for making costly mistakes, and Karen was put on stress leave and manager got a warning. One of the paralegals, Sally from Records, comes to me to say she thinks she's in trouble. Sally recently had 6 weeks leave. She was forced on leave due to having too much annual leave. Once you have more than 6 weeks, you are forced to go on leave until you have no more than 2 weeks. Sally tells me that HR and Karen enforced her on leave, and she submitted a paper leave form the same day Karen was put on stress leave. Sally went on leave, came back the same day as Karen. Sally's leave wasn't docked. She just got paid as per regular. While Karen was away, they replaced her with Paula, who found Karen hadn't really done any work for 7 months. I found Paula and asked casually about what happened. She told me on day 1, she threw all the paperwork out and started over again. So I attended a meeting with Sally, Karen, and HR, knowing there isn't a record of Sally's leave. Karen starts the meeting on a verbal rampage about not doing as she told Sally to do. Sally needs to go on leave now, or else she doesn't want to hear excuses. I interject at this point and point out to HR that Karen's behavior is unacceptable, but we agree, cue malicious compliance, as Sally has over 8 weeks leave now, she will go on leave effective tomorrow. Sally submits a leave form to Karen and we leave the meeting. Sally's leave is reduced on her payslip this time. No one questioned a thing. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called ExcellentAd1132. It says, "So Sally gets 4 extra weeks of vacation for free. Not a bad deal for her. Too bad that someone does not go above Karen's uncle and let them know what a waste of space Karen is and how she really isn't doing her job, where it is clear that she is clueless." Actually, it appears here that the commenter was wrong because they have 8 weeks and they need to get it down to 2, so they're getting 6 extra weeks for free. That's a lot of time off work. I'd be worried about things changing too much after just taking 6 weeks off and then having to take another 6 weeks off. I wouldn't even know the job I was coming back to at that point. But rest assured, I'd be very refreshed after that kind of a vacation, especially a paid one. This story comes to us from MD Lapla. "Boss wants me to cut internet to employees? I comply." When I was at the university, a friend landed a part-time job doing networking for a really small company and asked me if I wanted in because he also had other customers and was worried he wouldn't be able to handle them all. It was easy money, 12 hours per month, to basically maintain the network infrastructure, upgrade firmware on routers, check logs, run antivirus software, and install some crap on computers. So I said yes. The company used to fix and sell printers and printer-related stuff. It was run by 2 ladies that were friends, let's call them May and June, but the CEO in functions was May's husband. Let's call him CEO Peter, who was also June's husband's best friend. The rest of the company were Accountant Peter, that shared the name with the CEO, some technicians that were never there, and 2 hardworking sales representatives. Basically, the accountant, technicians, and sales reps were the only ones doing work there. Even though May and June were also technically sales reps, they hardly ever made a call. May spent all day browsing internet for things to buy. Her thing was shoes. June spent all day chatting with another guy, not her husband, who also shared the name with the CEO. Let's call him Third Peter. And CEO Peter spent all day watching adult material. Yes, at work. May appeared to have no problems with CEO Peter's habits. I spent most of the time there trying to clean CEO Peter's computer from the myriad of viruses that he would install browsing sketchy sites. And even when I complained a lot about it to him, he said that he didn't know why there were so many viruses and kept doing it every single day. This place was full of drama, and after a while, me and my friend would pretend to have work to do there and spent time there just for the laughs. One day, May approaches me furious, saying that she caught one of the sales reps browsing the internet instead of doing calls. She wanted to disable internet for the reps. I checked the logs. The rep browsed the spec of one of the machines she was selling, a newer model she wasn't familiar with. So, cue malicious compliance, I disabled internet for the whole company. About 2 minutes later, May, June, and CEO Peter came running to the server room, shouting about what the heck was happening to their internet. Accountant and sales rep pretty much never realized something changed because they were hard at work. I told them that May made me do it. She said, but just to the reps. And I told them some bull that I couldn't block a specific IP because they were assigned dynamically, so they were about to change and blah blah blah. CEO Peter was red as a tomato. He demanded to reinstate internet for everyone. I looked at June, she nodded. I looked at May, she said, "Are you sure you can't just for them?" I said no. She exhaled. "Okay then, internet is back up." OP added a couple of edits onto this story. The first one says, PS1, company dissolved when June sent an email meant for Third Peter to Accountant Peter while he was looking at a thing with CEO Peter, who saw the email. That day, I think, we spent like 4 hours in the company. The only thing lacking was popcorn. PS2 says, CEO Peter made hilarious attempts to hide his adult material usage. Once he had a CD named something like, you can read that on the screen, and told me it was a kid's movie. PS3, June had a post-it note with her password at one side of the screen. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Noob9. They quoted OP saying, he didn't know why there were so many viruses and kept doing it every single day. Well, as the network guy, just block the sites and argue that you blocked all sites that are a threat to the company. OP responded to this comment and said, I did try, I gotta give it to the guy. He had a way of finding something that wasn't blocked every single week. Furthermore, the more I blocked, the sketchier and more virus-ridden sources he found. So after a while, I removed the blocks, put his computer on a separate network to avoid widespread viruses, and stopped trying. I can't believe that OP left us hanging, saying that there was an email sent by June that dissolved the whole company. I mean, come on. That's the real story we want to read here. OP, please add an update onto this or another post altogether, because I think I can speak for everybody here at KCC and say that we all want to hear that story. I hate being left hanging. This story comes to us from someone we've covered a bunch of times on this channel in the past, Cole Carmot. Loss Prevention wants us to put in service calls. This may be my last contribution due to the upcoming changes, so I wanted it in my favorite subreddit. I work for a printing company, and as I tell a lot of people, much of my job is literally malicious compliance. People wanting things printed despite how they look, spelling and design errors, and just being plain ugly. This is another story that has come up these past 2 weeks. A while ago, one of the other locations absolutely destroyed one of their printers. Toner everywhere. The finisher unit was a hunk of plastic and metal. I genuinely don't know what they did to the machine, but it was FUBAR based on the photo, especially since the toner cartridge is not in the finisher unit. An investigation took place and it was discovered that rather than calling in printer technicians to repair the machines, some of the company employees were repairing them instead. A company-wide message went out essentially telling everyone not to repair or perform maintenance on the machine ourselves. Genuinely common sense things that had to be put on paper because someone did something stupid. We were always supposed to put in service calls to the techs to come take care of the machines, or we will be brought to HR. 3 months later, last week, 2 guys from Loss Prevention, who will be Tweedledum and Tweedledummer, came in to do a regular check-in. Everything was going great until I needed to change the paper in one of the printers. Tweedledum approached me and basically began raking me over the coals, saying that only technicians can open the machines. Of course, I am dumbfounded because all I am doing is changing the paper, but just shrug and say, sorry, won't happen again. Well, the next day, I was brought into a meeting with HR over video call, basically wagging their finger at me. My boss, D, took the fall for me and said he was the one to tell me to change the paper. So I got off scot-free, and D only got a slap on the wrist. Thankfully so, as this would have been my second write-up in 2 months. The first was a stupid but legitimate mistake on my part. However, as a result of this, the whole facility went into malicious compliance mode after that meeting. Need to change out the paper trays? Service call. Paper jam? Better put in a service call. Need to change the toner? That's a service call. Our output of jobs last week was absolutely in the toilet. Machines were down for nearly 90% of the shifts. The techs were having a field day, however, as they got paid per call they took. While our backlog is through the roof, we were able to make our point eventually. I am not sure exactly what had been happening in the background, but today I received a handwritten apology from Tweedledum and Tweedledummer with a $50 Visa gift card, saying they didn't understand what our job required when they reprimanded me and referred me to HR. We are back at full capacity now and have a huge backlog to catch up on. I'm hoping in addition to this gift card, I can also get in some approved overtime for some extra spending money on an upcoming trip I have planned. The company I work for may be dim at times, but at least they often admit when they make a mistake. OP added a couple updates underneath this one. The first one says, Update 1, so I learned a bit more about the situation. The loss prevention people that were involved were the ones directly dealing with the loss of the destroyed printer, and there turned out to be a misunderstanding about everything. My other coworker in the copy center has gotten into the habit of putting excess paper in the opposite side the paper tray as storage. The tray can hold up to 12 by 18 paper, so when there is 8.5 by 11 in there, they use the extra space for storage. The tech's ND has told them not to do that as they can damage the machine. Whenever I see the excess paper, I take it out. That's what loss protection saw, and why they reprimanded me in the first place. They assumed since I was working with the machines, I was the one who put that extra paper in. I learned this when the company assigned Karen was written up and made it rather vocal today. The problem with working with a good company like this is that it takes way too long to get rid of problem employees. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called CFWY Dirk. It says, WTF, an apology and a gift card? Nice. Plus maybe some overtime? I'd like companies that try to show they do care. OP responded to this comment and said, it's why I stick with this strange collection of clowns. As long as we do our work, they support us. Very rarely do you find a company that understands happy employees means increased productivity. OP is absolutely correct on that one. In most companies, the management just don't know what's going on below them. They don't care about the people below them, they just care about padding their own paychecks. I've seen that many times myself in the myriad of places that I've worked at over the years. And as you guys know from previous videos and the comments I make, I've had a lot of jobs. This story did make me question the intelligence level of the loss prevention officers though, because they decided to come down on OP for replacing paper. You would think they would know the difference when they're looking at somebody over changing paper and taking apart a piece of equipment to fix it. But I guess not in this case. Check out all 5 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.